7. I see riots and protests in many nations. The citizens of many countries shall be in disagreement with their government and shall take to the streets. Some of the major reasons shall be unfavorable living standards and high prices due to the collapse of economies. Another reason I see is poor national security and bad governance.
Peru's caretaker president, Dina Boluarte, is refusing to step down and is urging Congress to allow early elections after lawmakers voted against the proposal. Unrest began when Pedro Castillo was arrested for trying to illegally dissolve Congress. Castillo's supporters are calling his removal a coup. 22 people have died so far in clashes with police.
Soldiers preventing protesters from taking over an airport using deadly force. Several people were killed on Thursday and more than 50 wounded in the southern Andean city of Ayacucho. Human rights groups say soldiers shot at demonstrators with live rounds.
People were walking with stones or other objects in their hands, but they were only stones or a sign, and in response, soldiers shot them. This is extrajudicial killings. This is murder.
The army says the soldiers came under attack and responded. The conflict is escalating. Peru is in a state of emergency. The ministers of education and culture have resigned, and protesters are demanding new elections. But on Friday, lawmakers failed to reach 87 votes needed to bring the elections forward, the protesters' main demand. The mayor of Ayacucho is angry.
We cannot allow the Congress to be out of tune with its own population in the midst of a crisis where we are bleeding to death.
The capital, Lima, has been fortified and thousands of police have been deployed. Not all the protesters have been violent. On Friday, police didn't fight these demonstrators, instead escorted them as they marched peacefully. After 9 days of social unrest, Walter Mendoza remembers how his indigenous Ashaninka community suffered during the armed conflict more than 30 years ago. On Friday, he marched for peace.
We are here because our Ashaninka brothers died, and now we don't want violence.
Peruvians who say they're fed up with the violence, not only from now, but from a history of an armed conflict in the 80s and 90s that left more than 60,000 Peruvians dead. That's why these Peruvians are saying they want peace now.
Ayacucho is one of the 15 regions under curfew. It was at the center of the violence during the 80s, and again now. President Dina Boluarte has called on governors and church leaders to join government officials and begin dialogue with leaders of the most conflicted areas. But Boluarte has also said she supports the police and the armed forces.
Amid a deepening political crisis that's triggered unrest and ensuing violence across Peru, travelers from around the world have been left stranded in top tourist destinations.
Good thing is we did see Machu Picchu. Bad thing is we saw it on Monday. So we've been here for a while. We've been stranded.
Demonstrations and deadly clashes that have plunged Peru into a state of emergency have shut down rail lines, border crossings, and airports.
We are losing money now, we're losing clients, and this is gonna affect us a lot because Christmas is coming. So for us, like Peruvians, being a country who lives with tourists is very, very hard and difficult.
We're really stressed at the moment. We're not actually able to leave Cusco. Yesterday I was walking back and I heard an explosion go across the road. So it's just a really tense situation at the moment.
Canadians in Peru are being advised to avoid areas where protests are taking place and to not attempt crossing road blockades even if they appear unattended. Tensions first erupted last week when then-President Pedro Castillo announced plans to dissolve Congress ahead of an impeachment vote and rule by decree. Within hours, he was impeached anyway and arrested. He must remain behind bars for 18 months. Supporters of the ousted president are demanding his freedom.
Solo estoy cumpliendo
On Saturday, Peru's new president said calls for her to step down do not solve the problem, but she urged Congress to pass a proposal to bring forward early presidential and parliamentary elections after lawmakers rejected the constitutional reform needed to hold general elections in 2023.
For Canadians stranded in Machu Picchu, Global Affairs Canada said Peruvian authorities were organizing at least 4 humanitarian flights on Saturday. It's estimated there are currently just under 4,000 Canadians in Peru, though that number could be a lot higher, as the registration of Canadians abroad is voluntary.